In a world where fame often drowns out the soul's whispers, one man's quiet journey has begun to speak louder than the noise of Hollywood. Keanu Reeves, a name known globally for blockbuster hits, philosophical roles, and a personality unlike any other in the entertainment industry, has once again stunned the world. But this time, not through a movie. This time, it's something much deeper. A spiritual awakening, a personal transformation, and possibly a journey to Islam that is resonating with people of all faiths, backgrounds, and beliefs. Keanu has always been different. In an industry known for its glitz, glamour, and sometimes spiritual emptiness, he has been the rare voice of humility, generosity, and reflection. Fans around the globe have admired not just his acting, but his kindness, simplicity, and depth of thought. Whether it was giving away millions of dollars from his earnings to crew members, or choosing to live in a modest apartment and travel on the subway, Keanu has consistently shown the world that he's not your average celebrity. But behind that calm smile and thoughtful gaze lies a man who has endured immense personal pain, the loss of loved ones, battles with loneliness, and the burden of deep questions no fame can answer. This spiritual hunger led Keanu to explore truths beyond the screen. In his own private moments, away from the cameras, he searched, he read, he listened, and among the many paths he encountered, it was Islam, with its pure monotheism, its call to justice, peace, and purpose that spoke to his soul. The teachings of Islam about patience and suffering, about turning pain into prayer, about standing before the Creator with sincerity, these were not just philosophical ideas for Keanu, they were answers. The shocking part isn't that Keanu may have found peace in Islam. The shocking part is how powerfully his quiet conviction is echoing through a world desperately in need of real examples. He didn't make a grand announcement. He didn't seek headlines. But when he spoke, even briefly, about the impact of Islamic teachings on his heart, the world listened. And people started to see Islam not through the lens of stereotypes, but through the lens of one of the most respected actors of our time. This story isn't just about a celebrity, it's about something bigger. It's about the universal human search for meaning, about how truth finds its way even into the heart of someone the world least expects, and about how the light of Islam continues to reach those who are sincerely searching, not through pressure, not through propaganda, but through peace. As Keanu's journey continues to unfold, one thing is clear: his quiet steps toward faith are making a loud impact on hearts everywhere. In a time when confusion, division, and misinformation about Islam are widespread, his journey is breaking down walls and building bridges. It is reminding people that Islam is not a culture, not a label, but a divine path for the sincere. For anyone, anywhere, who seeks their Creator. What makes this even more powerful is that Keanu is not a preacher. He's not trying to impress anyone. He's simply walking a path that makes sense to his heart, and in doing so, he's touching millions of others. This is why his story is so powerful. This is why it matters. And now, it's time to dive deeper into how this journey began and why it could change the way the world sees Islam forever. The journey didn't begin in a mosque or through a conversation with a scholar. It started in silence, the kind that follows loss, pain, and deep reflection. Keanu Reeves had always been known for his ability to stay grounded despite immense fame, but those who knew him closely could sense he was searching for something more, something that wealth and celebrity couldn't provide. After losing his unborn child and later his partner, Keanu faced a grief that could have consumed anyone. Instead of turning to distractions, he turned inward. In that quiet place, he began to question life, death, and what truly lies beyond the surface. What drew him toward Islam wasn't pressure, media, or public debate. It was the simplicity and clarity of its message, the oneness of God. the balance between faith and action, the emphasis on inner peace through submission to a higher purpose. For someone who had lived most of his life in a world that often celebrated chaos and confusion, Islam offered clarity, not just as a religion, but as a way of life. Keanu reportedly became curious about the structure of daily prayer, the focus on gratitude, and the spiritual discipline of fasting. These were practices that demanded intention, not performance, something he deeply resonated with. He read quietly, he listened to lectures and watched documentaries without announcing it to the world. Friends noticed a subtle change, a calmness in his voice, a more thoughtful rhythm to his speech. He started asking deeper questions, reflecting on the purpose of existence. The teachings of the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, especially around kindness, justice, and mercy, left a lasting impression on him. It wasn't about converting to gain something, it was about discovering something he felt had been missing all along. In interviews and private conversations, Keanu began mentioning themes that closely aligned with Islamic values: contentment over materialism, spiritual connection over fame, and humility in the face of the universe. For someone who had spent decades in the public eye, he found comfort in a faith that didn't demand performance but sincerity. His connection with Islam wasn't a headline, it was a personal awakening, the kind that slowly transforms a person from the inside out. And as his heart opened to faith, the world unknowingly began witnessing a story of transformation that was just beginning. He began to feel drawn toward the discipline and serenity that Islam offered. The more he read, the more he found himself captivated by the lifestyle rooted in purpose and humility. He was especially moved by how Muslims dedicated moments each day to disconnect from the chaos of life and turn to their Creator through prayer. It wasn't a ritual of showmanship, but an intimate act of grounding and gratitude. He had lived in a world that worshipped fame and noise, yet here was a religion that valued silence, reflection, and a sincere heart. That contrast awakened something deep within him. He didn't feel pressured or rushed. It was as though his soul had been gently led to this path at the right time. While many speculated about his beliefs, Keanu remained quiet, not because he was unsure, but because his journey was sacred to him. Fame had taught him the danger of public scrutiny, and Islam taught him the value of guarding one's sincerity. Slowly, he started incorporating aspects of the faith into his daily life. The practice of charity, the mindset of gratitude, and the emphasis on intentional living all began to shape his world. He admired how Islam encouraged personal responsibility, not only in worship, but in kindness, family, and community. It wasn't just a religion for him, it was a complete system that guided the soul, body, and mind. He also found immense beauty in how Islam viewed suffering, not as a punishment, but as a path toward purification and strength. This resonated deeply with someone who had known personal loss. Islam taught him that pain wasn't meaningless. It was a way of returning to God with more humility and trust. That concept helped him heal parts of his past he had quietly carried for years. With each passing day, his heart leaned further into faith, and the peace he had once searched for in worldly success began blooming from within. Despite his global fame and the countless interviews he had given over the years, this inner transformation remained deeply personal for Keanu Reeves. It wasn't something he felt he needed to announce with flashing headlines or dramatic declarations. Instead, his change was visible to those who looked closely, not just in his words, but in his demeanor, his choices, and his newfound calm. Those who worked with him noticed a shift. He seemed more at peace, more present, and more connected to something greater than himself. What the world saw as mystery was, in truth, spiritual maturity. He was no longer chasing meaning in scripts or awards. He had found a deeper script. one that guided him with purpose, silence, and reflection. As he quietly embraced Islamic values, his worldview evolved. He began speaking more about humility, service, and gratitude, concepts that are at the heart of Islam. He shared his appreciation for the discipline of fasting, the beauty of prayer, and the comfort of believing in one God without intermediaries. This wasn't just fascination, it was faith growing roots. He admired how Islam emphasized intention behind every action. Whether eating, speaking, giving, or even remaining silent, everything was to be done with purpose and mindfulness. That conscious living resonated deeply with his minimalist lifestyle and his rejection of Hollywood excess. His transformation also became a quiet response to a world that often misunderstood Islam. In an age of misinformation, where headlines frequently associate Islam with negativity, Keanu's journey became a gentle challenge to those stereotypes. He hadn't been influenced by propaganda or pressure. He had searched, questioned, and found truth on his own. His respect for the faith reflected not only in his admiration, but in his effort to embody its teachings without expecting applause. To him, Islam wasn't an escape, it was an arrival at inner peace, clarity, and a relationship with the divine that didn't demand perfection, only sincerity. This silent evolution shocked many, but for him, it was the most natural step he had ever taken. As his journey continued, Keanu found himself drawn even more deeply into the heart of Islam's spiritual essence. He started waking up with purpose, not for film sets or interviews, but for prayer. The quiet moments before dawn, once spent in solitude or thought, were now filled with connection to his Creator. He no longer felt the need to search for answers in books or distant philosophies. He had found clarity in verses, in prostration, in the rhythm of a faith that gave every action significance. Each step he took felt like a return, not just to a religion, but to his true self, stripped of ego and grounded in sincerity. The man once known for his mystery now embraced simplicity with a new kind of strength. His past fame no longer defined him. The lights, the cameras, the red carpets, they all seemed like distant echoes compared to the peace he found in a single sincere prayer. Keanu began seeing the world through different eyes. Where once he saw fame as a path to impact, he now saw service, kindness, and silent compassion as the real ways to change lives. He wasn't interested in converting others or making speeches. His transformation was never about showing off. It was personal, sacred, and built from genuine conviction. What surprised people wasn't just that Keanu Reeves had accepted Islam, it was the way he did it. Quietly, humbly, without fanfare or agenda. In private conversations, he began encouraging others to explore their own spirituality, not by preaching, but by living as an example. Friends noticed he was calmer, more centered, and more forgiving. He had learned to let go of grudges, to see hardship as a divine test, and to meet life's uncertainties with trust instead of fear. Islam didn't make him someone new. It helped him uncover the depth that was always within him. His actions spoke louder than any headline ever could. While the world may have been shocked by his silent conversion, those who understood faith recognized it for what it truly was. A man returning home to a truth his soul had always been searching for. Keanu's journey didn't just change him. It started to influence those around him in ways he never expected. His quiet dignity and newfound peace began to draw attention from friends, colleagues, and even fans. People who had once known him only as a Hollywood icon now saw a different side of him. Someone grounded, introspective, and deeply spiritual. It wasn't about image anymore. It was about authenticity. He didn't seek to impress anyone with grand declarations. Instead, he let his actions, his calm presence, and his growing kindness speak for him. That authenticity made people curious. They began asking questions, not just about him, but about Islam itself. What struck most people was how different he seemed from the stereotype they had of Muslims. Instead of fear, there was compassion. Instead of anger, there was patience. He shattered assumptions simply by being himself. A man transformed not by force, but by understanding. When he did choose to speak, his words were filled with humility. He would talk about how Islam gave him clarity in a world full of noise, how it helped him make sense of pain, loss, and even fame. It wasn't about rules, it was about peace. A peace he had searched for his whole life and had finally found through submission to a higher purpose. His story began to go viral. Videos, quotes, and headlines spread across social media. People from all walks of life were shocked, inspired, and moved. Not just because he was famous, but because his journey felt real. It resonated with people who were also searching, who were tired of the material world and longing for something deeper, between cultures, between misunderstandings, and between hearts. And while some were surprised by his choice, others saw it as a natural continuation of the quiet, reflective man he had always been. As Keanu Reeves settled deeper into his newfound faith, his life took on a calm rhythm that echoed the teachings of Islam: balance, gratitude, and reflection. The man who had once drifted between roles and red carpets now found profound meaning in the smallest acts: the silence before dawn, the unity in prayer, the smile to a stranger. The Hollywood lifestyle that once demanded so much of him no longer held the same appeal, not because he turned his back on it in bitterness, but because he had found something greater, something that filled the spaces fame never could. His message, though rarely spoken in public, was resonating worldwide, not because he preached, but because he lived Islam with sincerity. That sincerity spoke louder than any award speech or press interview. Keanu's peaceful demeanor became a quiet form of dawah, a soft invitation for others to reflect, to ask, to seek. People who had never considered Islam began to wonder what had moved someone like him, known for his intelligence and humility, to such a life-altering choice. His example became proof that Islam wasn't just for one people or place. It was a truth that could touch anyone's heart, no matter their background. Journalists and fans continued to speculate, but Keanu never chased headlines. Instead, he focused on personal growth. He began spending more time in quiet reflection, giving to charity and supporting causes that aligned with his values. He immersed himself in learning, studying Islamic history, the lives of the prophets, and the wisdom behind every practice. He found joy in structure, freedom in submission, and clarity in worship. Fame became a tool, not a goal, a way to inspire silently rather than dominate loudly. His journey also reminded many Muslims of the beauty of their own faith, something often forgotten in daily routine. Seeing someone like Keanu Reeves embrace Islam rekindled a sense of pride, of hope, and of unity. His story wasn't just about conversion, it was about rediscovery. A reminder that peace doesn't lie in status or wealth, but in the alignment of the heart with its creator. Keanu's quiet revolution became a global awakening, not because he sought to change the world, but because he let Islam change him. Keanu Reeves' journey to Islam is more than just a story of faith. It's a powerful reminder that truth finds us when we're ready to receive it. His quiet steps toward Islam, without any media frenzy or dramatic announcements, reflect the depth of sincerity that Islam often awakens in those who truly seek. For someone admired across the globe for his humility, kindness, and wisdom, embracing Islam felt like a natural evolution, a step toward a way of life that prioritizes purpose, peace, and accountability over popularity or power. What makes Keanu's transformation so inspiring is not just who he is, but how he chose to walk this path. He didn't preach or claim to have all the answers. Instead, he listened, observed, and reflected. And in doing so, he discovered something the world of lights and cameras could never give him: inner peace. That quiet conviction is what's resonating with people across the world. Muslims feel proud, inspired, and more connected to their own faith. Non-Muslims are curious, respectful, and in many cases eager to understand what moved someone like Keanu Reeves to Islam. His story proves that no heart is beyond the reach of divine truth. No matter how far someone seems from religion, the moment of awakening can come in the most unexpected way, and when it does, it can change everything. In a time when Islam is often misunderstood or misrepresented, this simple yet powerful journey offers the world a much-needed glimpse into the beauty, discipline, and love that defines the faith. To everyone watching or listening to this story, thank you. Thank you for being open, for being curious, and for giving your time to reflect on something deeper than headlines or celebrity gossip. Whether you're Muslim or not, whether you're on a journey of faith or just exploring, Keanu's story is a gentle reminder that we all have a purpose, and finding it is the most beautiful part of life. Stay connected, stay open-hearted, and remember that sometimes the quietest stories are the ones that change the world the most. Peace and blessings to you all.